Hi, boys and girls. Welcome again to Acadiana's Mother Goose. I'm so happy that you're here with me today. I have a wonderful new book that I got called Run, Roo, Run, a story of the thin, pink-chested dog. And it's written by Lisa Haydel-Vicidomina. And it's a great little book about a dog named Rufus. I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. It's a book that's dedicated to her loving husband, Frank, and her cherished daughter, Victoria, who opened their forever home to Rufus. In addition, they have a special thank you to Rufus's saviors, Rita Moore and Olga Moore LaBranche, and the Louisiana Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. So let's get started. It was a cool fall day. The green leaves were changing to red and yellow. Many of the leaves were on the ground. Emily was walking to school with her pink backpack hanging off of one shoulder. She saw the leaves and decided to start kicking the leaves like a soccer player kicks the ball. Emily laughed when the leaves would fly up in the air. Emily walked past a clothing store, a post office, and several other businesses. She thought she heard a dog barking, but when she looked, she didn't see anything. After school, Emily took the same path back home. She remembered what happened in the morning and started to look for the dog. Here, doggy, she called. No answer. Emily thought, oh well, I must have just imagined I heard that dog. When she arrived home, she told her mom what had happened at school and about the dog. The next day, Emily walked to school with her pink backpack and brown bag lunch. Kicking the leaves into the air, she was singing, here, doggy. Then she heard the bark. Emily stopped and looked around. Out from under one of the buildings was a brown and white face with a black nose. Emily called, here, doggy. The dog slowly crept out from under the tan building. He barked. Emily looked at the dog. He was a beagle. Neither of them moved. She thought he looked very thin. His chest was pink because there was no hair. Are you hungry, boy? Emily opened up her brown bag and broke off part of her turkey and cheese sandwich. She threw it into the thin beagle. As he took a few steps toward her, she noticed he limped. Poor doggy, she thought. She threw a portion of the sandwich towards him, but he didn't move. Emily realized she would be late for school, so she started to run. As she was running, the leaves only flew slightly high in the air because she wasn't playing her soccer game. She turned and saw that the thin beagle with the pink chest had limped towards the food, grabbed it, and hobbled back under the building. While at lunch that day, Emily decided to save another piece of her sandwich so she could feed the dog on the way home from school. This time, instead of lazily walking home in the cool air, she decided to run home. She stopped in front of the tan building and called, here, doggy. The thin, pink-chested dog poked his brown and white face out from under the building. She called him again, and he inched his way out, but stopped when his front legs poked out onto the grass. She opened her pink backpack, took out the brown bag lunch, and opened the crumpled up bag. Inside was 1/3 of her lunch, the turkey and cheese sandwich. She broke it into 3 pieces and threw one piece towards the thin, pink-chested beagle. He didn't move. She threw the second piece. He inched his way out a little more. Emily started towards him, and he backed his way under the building. Here, doggy, Emily called. Poor thing, she thought, he must be scared. She threw the last piece of sandwich and started to walk past the building. Arf, arf! Emily stopped, turned around, and watched as the thin, pink-chested beagle limped toward the food. He gobbled it up and limped back under the building. Emily ran home to tell her mom. See this is the little dog name? Well, it's Rufus, okay? But right now we're just calling him Beagle. That evening after supper, Emily asked her mom if they could bring some dinner to the thin, pink-chested Beagle under the tan building. Her mom told her they would drive over to the building with some of the fried chicken they had eaten for dinner. As her mom drove their large white car towards the building, Emily sat in the back holding the aluminum foil wrapped paper plate of broken up fried chicken pieces. Emily told her mom where to stop. As her mom parked the car, the headlights of the car shone under the building. Emily and her mom got out, and Emily called, "Here, doggy, here, doggy." Nothing. "Here, doggy, here, doggy." Then from under the building, Emily and her mom could see two glassy brown eyes. The headlights of the car were shining towards the tan building. "Here, doggy, here, doggy. We brought you some dinner," Emily said. Her mom told her to be careful because the dog was probably afraid. "It's okay, Mom. He likes me." Emily showed the thin, pink-chested Beagle the aluminum foil wrapped paper plate. "Arf, woof, arf, woof," he barked and howled. Emily took off the aluminum foil and walked closer towards the building. They placed the paper plate of broken up fried chicken near the building and walked back towards their car. Emily and her mom climbed into their car and watched as the dog inched his way from under the building. He limped towards the paper plate of fried chicken pieces and gobbled them up. He then raised his head, looked at them with his large, sad brown eyes, and limped back to crawl under the building. "See, Mom, he just thanked us for the food." "I believe you are right, Emily." Emily's mom felt sad for the dog. He was an older dog. His chest was pink because he had no hair. The hair on his broad chest was gone. Very thin, she thought. Poor thing. He must have been abandoned and is now living under the building, waiting for food scraps. She thought to herself, I have to do something to help him. In the morning, Emily's mom made 2 turkey and cheese sandwiches. She cut one of them into small pieces and placed it in a bag. The mom told Emily that the cut-up sandwich was for the thin, pink-chested Beagle. She explained that Emily was to only feed him half in the morning and the other half on the way home. Emily asked her mom if that night after supper, if they could drive over to the tan building to feed him again. Her mom told her they would do that after all of Emily's homework had been finished. Emily kissed her mom and started walking towards school. She was so excited and couldn't wait to see the Beagle again. Emily did as her mom asked. She stopped in front of the tan building and called, "Here, doggy, here, doggy." Now the thin, pink-chested Beagle inched his way out from under the building and stood looking at Emily. She opened her brown bag and took out one half of the cut-up sandwich. She threw it towards the dog. He limped towards the food, gobbled it up, and limped back towards the building. "Bye, doggy. See you this afternoon." Emily yelled as she ran towards school, kicking the leaves in the air. This time, the red and yellow leaves flew higher in the air just like soccer balls. Emily was so happy. She knew the thin, pink-chested Beagle would be waiting for her after school. Emily couldn't wait for school to end. She ran all the way to the tan building. "Here, doggy," she called. Out came the thin, pink-chested Beagle. She put down her pink backpack, opened it up to remove the crumpled-up brown bag. She took out the other pieces of the cut-up turkey and cheese sandwich and threw it towards the dog. He took a few steps, stopped, and ran back to the building. Emily noticed he did not run under the building this time. He just stood there. As Emily started to slowly walk, she looked back and saw that he limped towards the food, gobbled it up, and stood there. Emily ran home. That night, after Emily had finished her homework, she and her mom piled into their white car, drove to the tan building, and parked. The headlights shining under the building, they both called, "Here, doggy! Here, doggy!" The aluminum foil wrapped paper plate of leftover fried chicken pieces was in Emily's hands. She heard, "Arf, arf, woof, woof, arf, woof." Emily took off the aluminum foil and walked towards the building. She put the plate on the ground. Emily and her mom climbed back into the car and watched as the thin pink-chested beagle inched his way out from under the building, limped towards the food, and gobbled it up. He stood there. Emily's mom looked into his large, cheerless brown eyes. Her heart felt sad for him. She knew she had to do something to help him. Every day for 28 more days, Emily would stop on her way to and from school and feed the thin, pink-chested beagle a sandwich. She did the same thing on the weekends, and after every night for 28 nights, Emily and her mom would bring an aluminum foil wrapped paper plate of leftovers from that night's dinner. They noticed that after a few nights, the thin pink-chested beagle would be sitting outside the tan building waiting for them. His tail would wag as they drove up. Every morning and afternoon, he waited for Emily to arrive with his sandwich. Emily and her mom realized that they needed to get help for the thin pink-chested beagle. The weather was getting colder, and they knew it couldn't continue to live under the building. He needed to live in a warm home with loving people. Emily and her mom couldn't keep him because they already had 2 cats and a dog. One day, they were able to walk up to the thin pink-chested beagle and pet him. They realized he now trusted them. Emily and her mom gingerly picked him up and placed him inside their white car. The mom drove towards the local animal shelter. Emily carried him inside, and her mom explained what had been going on for the last 30 days. After signing some papers, they left him there. Emily cried on the way home, knowing she would never get to see him again. The mom, too, had tears in her eyes. They both had become very attached to the thin pink-chested beagle. Her mom explained that they had done a very nice thing to help him. That night, still crying while her mom kissed her and tucked her into bed, Emily prayed for the thin pink-chested beagle. She prayed that he would be okay and find a loving forever home and a forever family. At the same time, there was another young girl named Victoria. She lived with her mom and dad along with their 6 cats and a fish. Victoria loved animals so much. She had been asking her parents for a dog, but they felt that she already had too many animals to care for. Every morning before school, she would wake up early to feed all of them. Victoria had a black and white tuxedo cat named Christmas Bell, a tabby named Snowbell, another long-haired tuxedo cat, Fur-E Cat, a short-haired tuxedo named Jack, a black cat with large head named Miles, a half-Siamese cat named Spencer, and a betta fish named Rainbow. After school and on weekends, she volunteered her time at the local animal shelter. Every weekend, Victoria would either be at the shelter or another location promoting animal adoptions. And see, here's Emily's animals at her house. See? On one of these weekends, Victoria was working for the animal shelter at a guard store and was assigned a thin pink-chested beagle named Rufus to take care of during the day. Her job was to walk him and hold him for people who may be interested in adopting him. At the end of the day, Victoria's mom drove to the garden store to pick her up. Victoria was talking with a man and lady about Rufus. Her mom did not want to interrupt, so she sat down to wait for her to finish her job. While Victoria was holding Rufus, she noticed her mom and pointed to him. Victoria's mom and Rufus looked at each other, and it was love at first sight. When Victoria and her mom were driving home, the mom asked questions about Rufus. After Victoria left to go out and play, her mom told Victoria's dad that she had found the perfect dog for the family. She explained that Rufus was an older dog and he was not in very good health. The parents decided to adopt Rufus and surprise Victoria when she came home from school. Victoria was so excited because she now had a dog. The family took Rufus to their local veterinarian to have him examined. The vet said the underweight dog was about 7 years old. He had a skin disease called eczema, and his hip was injured. The vet also said it looked like he had been abused because he was very scared and timid. The family left the vet's office with medicine for his skin, as well as a special medicated shampoo. Rufus adjusted well to his new life. He lived in a warm home. He was fed every day. His new forever family played with him. He went for car rides and walks in the park, but most of all, he was loved. Rufus was still scared of loud noises, aluminum foil, and doorbells. It is a picture right there of Rufus after he was adopted. Over the 2 years he has lived with Victoria and her family, his fears have improved. He has doubled his size and weight. His hair grew back and now covers his pink chest. He is no longer afraid of doorbells. When someone rings the doorbell, he now runs to the door wagging his tail. He loves riding in the car and bringing Victoria to school. Once a week, he rides in the car to get his weekly spa treatment of a bath and have his nails cut. He still loves his walks in the park. When Victoria or her parents open the door, they will say, "Run, Roo, run!" And he runs toward the car door, waiting for them to open it so he can jump in. One day, Victoria's mom said she was going to hire a new lady named Louise to clean her house. Louise asked if she could bring her daughter, Emily, to help her. Victoria's mom said that it would be fine because her daughter, Victoria, would also be at home. When the doorbell rang the day that Louise and Emily showed up to clean Victoria's house, Rufus ran to the door. When they walked in, Rufus ran back and forth and jumped on the sofas and then to the floor and back on the sofas. His cries of delight puzzled Victoria and her mom. They couldn't understand why Rufus was acting the way he did. After Louise and Emily had finished cleaning the house, they asked Victoria's mom how old was Rufus. Victoria's mom said that he was adopted from the local animal shelters about 2 years ago. Emily looked at her mom. A look of shock and awe showed on Louise and Emily's faces. Victoria asked what was wrong. Louise said 2 years ago Emily had stumbled upon a beagle that looked like Rufus. She added, and that the dog was so thin and he had no hair, which caused his chest to look pink. Also, the thin pink-chested dog had a limp. Now Victoria looked at her mom. Her mom started crying because she realized that the dog Louise and Emily had saved was the same dog they had rescued from the shelter. Victoria's mom told them that when they adopted Rufus, he was thin, had a pink chest, and limped. Victoria said, "My family brought him to the vet and we nursed him back to health." Laughingly, she added, "And now he's overweight." Just as Victoria's mom said his favorite food is, Emily chimed in, "Chicken." Victoria nodded in agreement. Now that Rufus was in better health, Louise and Emily had not recognized him, but Rufus indeed had recognized his saviors, Emily and Louise. Now everyone was crying. Everyone sat on the sofa talking about Rufus. He ran back and forth to Victoria and her mom, then again to Emily and Louise. The entire time he was wagging his tail and showing his love to each of them. Victoria and her mom wanted to hear everything that Emily and Louise knew about Rufus. Louise and Emily wanted to know about Rufus's new life. Smiling, he ran back and forth on the sofas between his two families. A thin, pink-chested dog he was, now no more. Now the overweight beagle, named Rufus, was in a loving forever family. Daily he hears, "Run, Roo, run," as he runs to the car for his daily rides. Oh, see, here he is right in here. He doesn't have his little pink chest anymore, and he's very, very happy with his new adopted forever family and forever home. Did you enjoy this book? I think it's a wonderful story. And it also makes me realize how important it is that we all adopt. Don't shop. Don't buy a puppy anywhere. Adopt a puppy or a dog from your local animal shelter. It's so important. Because this story right here, this story was a true story. And these people saved the dog and brought him to an animal shelter, and then the other family adopted him and saved his life. So all of us need to do more of this. It's a true story of Rufus the Beagle, who was rescued and adopted into the forever family by the Vicidomina family, who are quite familiar with adoption. Lisa and her husband Frank adopted their daughter Victoria from China at the age of 1. Shortly after her adoption, they, along with several other families, created a Louisiana chapter of families with children from China. Unfortunately, Hurricane Katrina had since caused the disbanding of this organization. All of the Vicidomina animals are adoptees. Their menagerie has included cats, fish, hermit crabs, baby squirrel, and now Rufus. To volunteer at their local animal shelter just seemed like a natural thing to do. Volunteering has always been a part of Miss Haydel-Vicidomina's life. Victoria, who is following her mom's footsteps, has received several awards of her community involvement. Miss Haydel-Vicidomina contracted polio as a child. She read the dictionary for enjoyment. She is a retired certified sign language interpreter and former secretary. She currently volunteers at Archbishop Chappelle High School and the Louisiana Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, and volunteers at health fairs promoting colon cancer awareness. So this family has not only have all adoptee animals at their house, but they also believe in volunteering at animal shelters. And it's so, so very important. Well, I hope you enjoyed this story. I enjoyed this book by Lisa. And I'm so happy that Rufus had a good life. It's just a wonderful story. And there's lots of other stories out there like this. If you have a children's book that you know about that you'd like for me to read, tell the author to please contact me, okay? They can find me on YouTube or Facebook. And maybe I'll read their book on my show. So thank you again, and it's just such a lovely book. Did you enjoy it? Yes? Good. Thank you so much. And then next month, I'll be doing another story. We're not sure which book yet, but it'll be a surprise. So I hope you enjoyed this story. Run, Roo, Run, a story of the thin, pink-chested dog. And his name it was Rufus. And he was adopted into a forever home and a forever family. So if you're going to get an animal, any kind of animal, a cat, a dog, or whatever, please, please, don't shop. Just adopt from your local animal shelter and try to save a life like these people did. This dog had a wonderful, happy life. And thank you again so much for being a part of my show. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you'll listen again the next time. Thank you again. Goodbye, everyone. Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye.